Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on Stanley Park, where we will explore its development strategy, focusing on tourism, sustainability, and cultural prevention. Our presentation topic is site analysis and planning framework. And let's start. First of all, I'd like to ask you one question before starting the presentation: is that how many of you visited Stanley Park, and what was your favorite part of experience? Well, if I talk about my experience, my best experience was when me and my friend visited to Stanley Park, and we went to Vancouver Aquarium, and over there we saw several types of species of fishes and everything. And so let's start with the introduction part. So Stanley Park has a very deep story about it, and there used to be indigenous people live over there for the thousands of years before British Columbia was taken over by the British. The British started taking control during the 1858 Fraser Canyon gold rush. Stanley Park was one of the first places explored in Vancouver as well. After the British took over, the land with many resources also become home to shelter who were not indigenous. When Vancouver was officially created in 1886, this area was chosen as the city first park. The park was named after the Lord Stanley, the 16th Earl of Derby, who was the leader of the Canada at the time. And this park is now situated in this central Vancouver. And the total size of this park is 405 hectares. So this is the view you can see from the Stanley Park. This is the view which is thousand times better than any view you can see from the part of the Vancouver. So let's go to our next slide. So I'll be covering the physical 5 A's, which is the part of this presentation. So let's talk about accessibilities. Stanley Park is one of the most accessible park in North America. Visitor can reach the park by foot, by car, by bus, and by the public transportation as well. Quick show on hands who has cycled along with the seawall. I did the cycling along with the seawall. If I talk about the attractiveness in the Stanley Park, with its spectacular view of the harbor, mountains, and city, Stanley Park is a visual treat. What comes to the mind when you think the Stanley Park landscape? I'll say the beauty. If I talk about the accommodation, there are several hotels near the Stanley Park, like Western Bay Shore. And does anybody visited to that place? I visited to that place once when there was a group meeting. If I talk about the auxiliary services, apart from our usual amenities, Stanley Park also offer a range of services such as guided tour. Have anybody taken the tour over there? I did. You should also go.
Hi, I'm Pavneet. I'll be covering the five key locations that are very famous at the Stanley Park. The first and foremost is the seawall. The seawall is one of the most iconic features of Stanley Park. It's like approximately 9 kilometers long, offering views of city locations and oceans as well. Trust me, my I and my friends we went over there like a couple of days ago and it was so beautiful. And hands up who all walked or cycled along that lane. It's just way too beautiful. The next that I have covered that is the Lost Lagoon. It's basically a quiet area. It is perfect for nature lovers. It's great for bird watching and peaceful walks. If you just want to rejuvenate your mind, it's the place that you should really look forward to. And it has very unique wildlife. I hope everyone has been there, and if not, it's a place to go. Next, we come to Vancouver Aquarium. Our whole class went to this particular place and we had a lot of time. We did have a whale of a time too. The aquarium is a top family destination. It's both educational and fun. So, what's your favorite marine animal? Do tell me. Next, the Stanley Park Pavilion. The historic venue is not just for food, it's the part of the park's heritage. Ever dined in the pavilion? I dined it once and the food is spectacular over there. Trust me, it's totally worth it. The totem poles. Stanley Park hosts the largest collection of indigenous totem poles. It is basically what I would say is like the wooden sculptures of the indigenous people, which tells you about the history of it, and it is really amazing. It is a very new experience in my perspective. The next slide I'll be covering is the scan of the whole market. The target audience. The Stanley Park attracts a variety of tourists, like families, eco-tourists, even the cultural tourists as well. Which group do you think spends the most time over there? In my perspective, it's equal. The visitor trends. The next one is ecotourism and cultural experience are on the rise. What kind of activities do you think are most attractive to the ecotourists? I have some of them in mind. Not the last, but I would say the competitors. That's the main point and the most interesting too. The nearby attractions like Granville Island and the Capilano Suspension Bridge draws tourists over there as well. What's in your opinion makes the Stanley Park unique as compared to these places? I would say the close SkyTrain station. That's my perspective. You must be having different one. The visitor spending. Stanley Park visitors often spend money on food, bike rentals, and on souvenirs. When I went over there, I did spend most of a big chunk of money on the souvenirs for my each and every kith and kin. Then, last but not the least, is the nearby attractions. Stanley Park is close to Vancouver waterfront and several museums, which makes it way more easy for the tourist to get attracted to. Now, my next classmate will take on to another slide and will explain you everything accordingly.
Okay, so I would like to explain you about development theme and strategy. So, the main theme for Stanley Park's development is heritage and nature tourism. It combines the park's cultural significance with its natural beauty. So, for its preservation, we aim to preserve the natural areas like Lost Lagoon, maintaining the balance between tourism and conservation. How do you feel about keeping natural areas largely untouched? So, basically the key development areas are visitor centers, eco-friendly structures, and cultural hubs, which will be placed strategically around the park. Imagine a cultural experience center near to the totem poles. What do you think about this idea? About sustainability, so we are also focused on sustainable tourism. What are some eco-friendly strategies we could implement to ensure minimal environmental impact? So for the next slide, I would like to talk to you about strategy map. So in visitor centers, we propose placing visitor center at major access points like Georgia Street to provide essential information on the park's cultural and ecological significance. Cultural engagement zones. There will be dedicated cultural spaces near the totem poles offering indigenous art and workshops and storytelling. Ecotourism trails. Trails through Lost Lagoon and other areas will be enhanced to produce the natural walk and biodiversity education. Recreational areas, cycling paths, walking trails along the seawall will be improved for better visitor experience. And next slide will be, I think, proposed by Vasabi.
So the next slide we have is development intensives. Uh, I have very few points to cover. Like the first point, it's like the light development. It says that Lost Lagoon and the nature spaces will undergo changes to preserve the ecosystem. It also has the medium development, which says that areas like the seawall, which are already popular, will receive upgrades like the bike rental station and visitor amenities. This is only because of the large amount of footfall which comes and just for the visitors so that they can also enjoy and they can also explore the more unexplored and unvisited places nearby. The third point is the sustainability, and sustainability is the core factor. I'll say this is the core strategy they are carrying, that the ecosystem, material, and renewable energy sources will also be used, not depending on just sustainability, but also making a very nice balance between everything so that they don't get just use everything up or just on the one energy. The next slide, which I'm going to talk to you about, is the tourism products. And this has some of the my personal points as well, starting from the eco tours, that guided eco tours will be educated for visitors on the uh, park's ecosystem and perfect for eco tourists. Normally, people just travel to the eco parks and just come back. They don't really know what exactly they carry that place holds and how they got into the ship. So I also believe that the eco tours must be more supported and more actively driven. And the indigenous culture experience is like my batchmates also told about the indigenous importance, and I also believe that indigenous people and their society holds a very huge impact on the land. That their workshops and their performances are very very important for the people to know how they got to use how they used to work and how they are working now, and managing everything in this fast paced life. And family activities, this is my personal favorite because in the Vancouver Aquarium, that provides a great experience for the family, especially for the children. And because the people over there, the employers, they give a hands-on experience in the exhibits. Because when I visited the Vancouver Aquarium with my batch, I also got an experience to just got a hand on the sea lion. So it was a very nice experience. Got to know a lot of things about the aquatic animals as well. And the last is cycling adventure. Stanley Park is not that small. It is a very big place. You can easily explore a lot of places by cycle as well, because cycling can give you more area to explore, and more let's say remote areas to get to know to more. So these are my slides, and last the conclusion will be given by my batchmate.
So I will talk about the last thing, which is connection and visitor matching. So if I talk about the visitor matching, what we believe is that what this place is best for the ecotourists. Eco tours and the nature walks will be especially appealing to the eco-conscious visitors. If I talk about the second visitor matching with that will be families. As we talked about in the presentation, there are many places where people can go with the families and explore the areas. uh, Lastly, talk about the cultural tourists, who are people who are into the culture. Indigenous culture experience near the totem poles will attract those interested in the history and culture. So these are the visitor matching we talked about. And lastly, if I conclude with our presentation, is that we expect a 10 to 15% increase in the visitor with these new developments. Sustainability impact, the park will maintain its ecological integrity while accommodating more tourists. Culture management, indigenous culture program will be increased through participation. And economic impact, the economic boost from the tourists will support the local businesses. So in the last slide, you can also see our mapping. We did our mapping by our own. We took a photo and we drew everything by our own. In the presentation as well, you can see in the last, we also drawn some legends as well, where we mentioned all the 5 A's, and these are our references. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you.